Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. I've made it to the Chicago Botanic Garden, and I'm super excited to be here with Richard Hawke, who I met, 3 or 4 weekends ago at something in Raleigh at a plant symposium he was speaking at. Can you tell folks your role here at the Chicago Botanic Garden?
Yeah, I'm the Director of Ornamental Plant Research at Chicago Botanic Garden, and what that entails is the programs for plant breeding, plant evaluation, and plant introduction.
Wow. Okay, and are you're trialing plants mainly for the upper Midwest, Chicago area? Yeah,
I think our goal has, initially was to trial plants for this site.
Right.
And then we broadened it to the local area, but we really are for the upper Midwest.
Right.
And interestingly enough, there are people all over the country that use our information.
Right.
I think they, sometimes I laugh, I think, why does someone in Seattle care about our thing? Right. But I think it's the sort of process we go through and the sort of rigorous evaluation. They appreciate that.
Right. I've always understood that they kind of set, the Chicago Botanic Garden and Richard kind of set the standard for how plants are trialed. And when we're talking about trialing, we're not saying that they plant something, look at it for 6 months and then go, wow, it's great. It is years.
Yes.
You're looking at things. So for annuals and perennials, how long are you?
So perennials, we look at perennials for a minimum of 4 years.
So 4 years. So you're getting a real winter somewhere in there.
I think so. Oh, yeah.
Right.
I mean, originally the idea was 2 years, but there are no two years alike in Chicago, both for winter, summer, or any other season.
Right.
So we thought, well, we really should do a longer trial.
Yeah.
We kind of think of it as a year of establishment,
right,
and then 3 good years of seeing what the plant's going to do in our conditions.
Right. So you're not babying them.
No,
you're getting
what
a homeowner might.
I always jokingly say we'll give it what a homeowner will probably give it, which is water, which of course is sometimes a leap of faith that they'll do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't do, only things we do to the plants is we irrigate as necessary.
Right.
We do mulch for water conservation and for aesthetics.
Yeah.
We do weed, although don't look too closely today. There's plenty out there.
Right.
Otherwise, nothing. No fertilizer, no disease or pest control, no deadheading, no division, no staking. Just put them in the ground, and if they do well, they're considered good plants.
That's awesome. Let's go look at some things.
Sure. Awesome.
This is going to be eventually your shade trial area, and you do have some shade, things you would think of for shade, but you're waiting for the shade.
Yeah.
Waiting for the shade.
Yeah.
To fill in.
We planted this garden this year. It's been under construction for the last several years. Yeah. It's only going to have natural shade. Metasequoias and taxodiums are the trees. And then there's hedging throughout that will give us sort of microclimates, provide microclimates, and sort of block the western wind. Right. And they'll be in varying heights. Like this is a beech hedge, which I think will be about, I want to say 8 feet is what the ultimate height will be.
Right.
And then they vary. So as you go through the garden, there's some that are a little shorter. And then we want to block. It's also for blocking views and things like that.
Right. Making people kind of go around something, see something, and
So and then within the curvilinear beds, unlike the other trial garden where we're just doing a really basic comparative trial where you just everything's side by side, these plants are in bigger groups.
Right.
They're not really designed per se like. This color goes with that color. Yeah. We really just wanted them to be mixed. So some of the genera we're looking at in this garden are things like ajugas, heucheras, bergenias, lagerstromias, the crepe myrtles that are being grown. They're not going to be trees, they're going to be shrubs for us, and have been bred for that. You can see they're solid with flower buds already.
And the key to keeping, the key you're saying in the breeding of these, to have them zone 5, are you 5B or?
We're 5B, yeah.
Okay, so to have them 5B hardy, they've got to die back to the roots.
Yes, and they do.
Gotcha.
Or at least to the snow cover that stays through the whole winter. We've had them die back to about 2 inches from the bottom, but mostly it's right to the base. And then in a year, in a fairly short order, they come back up to about 30 inches tall and wide, and are covered with flowers.
And they're budded, and even without it, this part of the breeding is also for the foliage colors,
yes.
so that you'll be
Yeah, a lot of them are being bred for their darker leaves, whether it's an accent at the tip or all the way through.
Right.
There's some great colors out there, and then of course the flower range is, I think, fairly typical of Lagerstromias.
Right. So yeah, and that's interesting with plants that people may not know. Sometimes they're root hardy, but not hardy on top. So something like agapanthus for us in Zone 7, if we can get them to die to the ground, they'll come back for us. If they don't die to the ground, same result.
Exactly, and I think that anything woody or sort of less hardy for us, if they die to the ground and they come back up, that's still a win. Unless what comes back up is so sad and tragic.
Right.
But basically, if it comes back, it's a win.
Yeah.
And so we're happy about that.
And they bloom on new wood, so they're good to go.
So they are. So it's already built in. Yeah.
Right. So you obviously are trialing hydrangeas. Hydrangeas are the money maker in ornamental horticulture, and so it's mostly arborescens.
In this garden, we are concentrating on arborescens.
Right.
All the old ones and all the new ones. There's so many new ones that have come out. It's kind of it's the hydrangea we can do that looks like macrophylla.
Right.
There's serratas. Some of the serratas do well.
And I've seen a couple in the garden.
Yeah, and they do well in a more protected spot.
Right.
But this one is just for pretty much any place.
Right.
And I think that's their benefit for us.
Right. So you need them to bloom on new wood. Just based on your winter, you need something that will come back and bloom. On its own wood. And so how are paniculatas here?
Paniculatas are great. That's no issue with hardiness there. There may be an issue with too many that look the same.
Yeah, 700 varieties.
That look the same. But other than that, I mean, those are great plants for here. Yeah. And interestingly, the average person seems to think they all turn blue or pink.
Right.
But then those are now turning pink.
Yeah, right.
They're being bred to turn pink, so I think when you tell people it doesn't turn pink, they get confused.
Right. Yeah. So your arborescens. It's supposed to be pink.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's the kind of thing that has been interesting to when you talk about plants with other gardeners.
So next up is Carex, because Carex has just become, just the new ornamental plant that everybody uses, and I've got ones like Everillo with the bright gold. Yeah. Do you guys trial that at some point?
We do have that in here. We have I want to say 50 different Carex. I had to draw the line.
Yeah, right.
Part of it was some of them want dense shade right now. Some of them want a lot of water, and so I picked things that would do better in this sort of open condition with just moderate water. But yeah, we've got a lot of the variegated ones. Those can be problematic for us, again, our winter, a hardiness issue. But I think it's a group that a lot of us here are looking real forward to, because it's still unknown to, I think, a lot of people.
It is, and just for those of you who don't know, Carexes aren't grasses. They look like grasses, and there's 500 species or something just in North America. Yeah. I mean, there's the number of them is mind-boggling for people to actually jump into and work with. And some of them live underwater. If you've been to the Everglades, that's Carex, and then some are, dry woodland shade plants.
And those, and I also had to skip those, because I think those were this is not that condition. I tried to match everything with the conditions that are here and just pushing it a little bit. I didn't want to push it too nutty. Right. But I think the Carex should be interesting to watch. I think we are eager to see the variegated. I think that's the one that intrigues people the most is the really exaggerated variegation.
Right. So I asked before we started filming, what's your favorite kind of plant family, and for this trialing process? And
I think if anyone looked at what I've done in the past, it would probably be clear it's the ranunculus family. Yes. Ranunculaceae. Yes. I really a sucker for anything in that family. Currently, we are doing a big hellebore trial. Which coincidentally is a ranunculus family. Yes. But I the buttercup family. But I do love the plant. I love the flower structure. I love the whole concept there. Yeah. So clematis, thalictrums. We've done so many in the family, but the current one is We are looking at clematis out here as well, but the hellebores have been a group I've wanted to look at for a long time.
Right.
I have, based on other parts of the country where I've seen them growing well in full sun, and knowing my own home garden in the city that they're more sun than shade, I've just said we're going to try them, and hopefully they'll be fine.
Right, and so so far, so how long have these been in the?
Just since the spring. What I found with them, if they're in too much shade, they don't flower as well, and if they're in more sun, they do seem to flower better here.
Right.
And unless you've got a really hot, dry conditions, they seem to do fine.
Right. And for us, they're definitely part shade, but I see the occasional one where it's just really rugged and well established that it can kind of adapt. Even in our area down in Raleigh.
I see there's one in our parking lots that looks to me like one of the most inhospitable places you could ever imagine, and it's enormous. And it's an Argutifolius, which I didn't think was even going to be that hardy here. But it was a hardiness issue was our real thought, but I don't think it is a hardiness issue. I think it's going to be, I think there's just so much better breeding out there than there may have been years ago.
One other question for you. How long have you been at the Chicago Botanic Garden? We didn't cover that.
This is my 38th year.
38th year. Okay.
So I've been here for a while.
And how long have the trial gardens been?
The trials have been in existence since 1982.
Okay.
And at that time, it was a very small, minor program. When I came in '85, is when we really started pushing the concept that we have today.
Right.
The real comparative aspect of it.
Right. We have an interesting thing in horticulture where you're doing everybody a favor by trialing these things in the ground for 4 or 5 or 6 years, because there are what I always called container nursery production plants where I know 500,000 of them a year sell, and I never see one in anybody's landscape.
Yes.
Because they're like nursery plants.
Yeah.
And then there are also plants that are. This has to work both directions. You can trial it and say it's the greatest plant ever. They've got to be able to grow it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so it's this combo.
It's a tough one. That's that sort of chicken egg thing where you're not sure, but it does have to work together.
It does have to
work
together.
And we have come upon many times where we have found a plant, and our stuff, 98% of our stuff comes from the industry. Right. So it's not, a lot of it, some is wild collected, but most of it comes from the industry. Right. So we received it, we grew it, we loved it. Nobody has it at all, and it's then you have to well, why doesn't anyone have it? And a lot of time it's production.
Yeah, right. It takes an extra 3 months. It takes an extra 6 months, and that space in a nursery is very valuable.
Yeah.
Okay, so when was the circle garden established? This is in your time, right?
Yeah, this garden was built in 1989. It was developed, and it continues to be solely for herbaceous perennials.
Gotcha.
In fact, in 1989 when we opened it, it was called the Herbaceous Test Garden, and it was a direct result of how popular perennials were becoming.
And that was that time. Yeah, there was a time there in the early 90s where it was just perennials
everywhere, and obviously it's sustained itself. We're still all perennials.
Yeah. Well, the perennials are now a little well behaved, probably.
Yes.
than what you probably originally. Yeah.
Well, the first go around in this garden, we just did 5 genera, and so we did huge plots of a single taxon, and so the visual was amazing.
Right.
Well, then after 4 years, we dug everything out. We've never done that since. That's just too much to empty this whole garden and start over. So now everything is staggered and smaller groups.
So something will live its life here 4 years, and then at the end of that time, you're looking at all these echinacea at one time, and then what do you do to put this work out into the world and let people know? So
internally, the best from this goes into our display gardens.
Okay, yeah, right.
Or into our permanent collection.
Yeah, that's certainly an award.
So that's really the sort of tangible part here. But we report. It's very important. Early in the early stages of my time here, it wasn't even on my mind. And I think one day, 5 years in, I'm like, what's the point of doing this if you're not going to report on it? So we report on a trial in its full, all the things that happened in the 4-year trial, or in the case of a shrub, 6 years, in our publication, which is called Plant Evaluation Notes. Used to be printed and distributed, now it's only available on our website for downloading. So that's a way for everyone to understand just how rigorous the evaluation is, or the trial is. And then for the last 12 years or so, we've been working a lot with Fine Gardening magazine.
Yeah, and I've seen you were published many times.
Yeah, and that's been a real positive for getting information out about a trial that maybe hasn't quite finished. Also a trial that's we've enhanced in the sense we did a trial years ago and now we've done a second trial, and these are all newer things. But also reaches a different audience, or a bigger audience. We also do publish, our information is published a lot in a Illinois Landscape Contractors Association in their magazine as well. And then of course it's picked up in other websites and blogs and social media and stuff. So,
but you've got real truth. I mean, a tag can say something, but you have actual 4 years of looking at it and know how it comes back every year.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that is the value. That this is it's bona fide. It's not like we think it's going to do that, or we saw it for a year. This is over a 4-year period. You're seeing it over and over again. That proves, I think, it's a good plant, or a bad plant for that matter.
Well, yeah, right, exactly. Exactly. Oh, there are missing pieces. There are missing rows. Entirely missing rows. Yeah. So
and those are usually the ones that have not done well. Now, this coneflower trial that's here is actually not that large compared to others I've done. These are things that I had never grown prior to 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. So this is its 3rd year in the garden. And these are all things, and no doubles. There's a couple doubles in here, but I did not factor those into this specific trial.
Well, on your perennial herbaceous perennial trials, native wise, what have been your big? I saw Vernonia.
Vernonia was a really popular one. I mean, the asters was very, very big. A lot of the grasses, the native grasses. Baptisia, which I've not published yet, but that's going to be, I think, a really good one.
And that's so hot now. Everybody's looking for the next great Baptisia.
Yeah, I was actually impressed at that program that we met, where Tony Avent was talking about his new breeding plans, and that's like completely opposite of his old breeding plans. So that's kind of fun. So I think it's got a lot to do. Coneflowers have been really good as far as things that people are interested in. Hibiscus moschutos, a good native that's been bred a lot. I think we try to keep a lot of natives in the program at some level. The whole question of natives, nativars, exotics. We have to. It's a challenge, and we're trying to at least address it. It's a tough one.
So we've looked at herbaceous perennials, we've looked at a few woody ornamental shrubs, but you also have a green roof trialing program.
We do.
As well.
We have a 16,000 square foot green roof on our Plant Science Center, where we have looked at a lot of native plants as well as exotic plants. It's a pretty good trial.
Wow, and how long do those trials run as well?
Same thing. If they're herbaceous plants, we're still on a 4-year cycle. On woody plants, it's a 6-year cycle. The main part of the first trial up there was a full 5 years. We decided that I wanted to give it a little more time because it's a very different growing condition than I'm used to on the ground. What's been fun to watch is some of the same species and taxa on the ground do almost exactly the same on the green roof. Others less so.
Okay, so you have herbaceous perennials up there. You have woodies.
We have woodies up there.
You would have less succulents than we might have.
We actually, the succulents ended up predominantly being sedum don't do as well as they're sort of touted as. And I think that for us, I think part of it was the only way to get around the roof was walking through the sedum, and I think we may have been the bigger culprit. But we have opunches up there, and
okay. Yeah, well, they're going to be.
yeah.
I say all the time, they may be the last thing alive on Earth. I've seen them in the hottest places on Earth and the coldest places.
They're almost. I forget the thing. They're almost every state. It's like they're all over. Yeah, they'll be covered with cockroaches, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's super funny. So how maintenance-wise out here, when something goes in the ground, is it getting a lot of how amended is this?
The soil is not amended at all. At least as far as incorporating any organic matter. Over time, organic matter is added because we do mulch every year with a composted leaf and a twig that's ground up and matured a little bit, and so we do cover every year with that, and then over time that builds in. But we have a clay-based soil, and it's gotten better over the last 30 years.
Oh yeah, it does.
But it definitely is still, that's what we deal with.
Right.
But that's really the only maintenance.
Fertilizer?
No fertilizer at all.
No fertilizer. So they're going in the ground and
they go in the ground.
They have the organic material breaking down and whatever micro.
Hopefully.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
hopefully soil's healthy enough for that. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Yeah. We do weed just mainly for competition and visual. Yeah. But other than that, we just let them go, do their thing. If they've succeeded without any care, it's a pretty phenomenal plant.
No, yeah. For 4 years, and especially in this space.
And it's a lot of wind here, so we either find plants flop. Mm-hmm. Or they become very strong.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of them that you expect would fall over actually have done quite well out here. I'm looking from here at some delphiniums that actually, until we watered this morning, were standing up pretty tall, and the one group is still standing pretty tall.
That one makes me jealous because we can't grow that. That almost black delphinium is one that I would definitely want to have in my landscape. In here. So
we're in the Plant Conservation Science Center, which opened in 2009, I believe. And this houses our science program, which is primarily for conservation-based programs, genetics, seed conservation.
Right. These are things collected in the garden here.
Yeah, no, it's really from all over. We have a scientist here that works on breadfruit. We have mycologists. It's really a mixed bag. Now the students that are here for a multitude of different reasons. We have a number. The Chicago Botanic Garden has an education program that starts at preschool and goes up through continuing education, and then we also have a joint program with Northwestern University for a master's and a PhD.
Oh wow!
So and that's what most of these are all probably summer students, are either our college first or our science first programs, which are middle school and high school students. They also could be our REU students, but then there's a few scientists I can see in there, staff scientists.
Wow.
Who are mentoring them.
So this is when I've seen student groups here this morning. I've seen a lot of people here walking, seen a lot of people here using the Botanic Garden for different reasons and different, seems well used. How long is it?
Well, the garden has been, is in its 50th year. This is our 50th anniversary. It opened in 1972. We have worked up to our annual visitation as 1.2 million. Typically, even during COVID, it was still.
That's a good amount of
it still
visitation to
reached
the city,
a million.
Probably.
Oh yeah. It's a well-traveled, and a lot of the people that you saw today either came as a group and are doing something special, or they're walkers that may be neighborhood walkers, or they're people that just park just to walk the perimeter. But yeah, a lot of visitation here. Yeah. It's busier on the weekends when I think the bulk come, but it's busy all the time, and it's great to see because people are here for a lot of reasons, not just for the beauty, but for the serenity. Sometimes it's for bird watching. Sometimes it's to sit in the grass and watch the day go on.
Thank you very much,
Surely,
Richard, for giving your time to us today. I know you're a busy person and a busy place.
I like to tell people that. But.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, great. I was glad you're here.
Love this. Love it. Yeah. Thank you.